Now I can finally make a video about my top 5 favorite characters in all of BlazBlue. Now originally this was going to be a top 10, and this would have been more comfortable as a top 10 because I will have more to say. But I'm not trying to have this video go really long, so I decided to just keep it a top 5, and this was really hard to do because there's a lot of characters in BlazBlue. I am going to keep one rule on this video, and that is I'm only going to be talking about playable characters. That means I'm not going to reach into side material like BlazBlue Phase Shift, Spiral Shift, Alternative Dark War, Remix / Variable Hard, Cross Tag Battle. No, none of those. I'm going to be strictly talking about the characters who have been playable from games such as BlazBlue, Calamity Trigger, all the way to BlazBlue Central Fiction. That's pretty simple to understand because I just didn't want to try to pull out a ton of characters, because there are some characters inside material like X-Blaze that I would like to put on this list, but they're not exactly my favorite characters of all time. But I could make a list someday talking about my favorite X-Blaze characters if I were to do such a thing. But without further ado, let's get into talking about my top 5 favorite characters in all of BlazBlue. So I wanted to get the most obvious one out the way for people who know me. I generally do love RAGNA the BlooDedge. I love this guy. He's just one of my favorite protagonists of all time. Not even just in fighting games, I mean just in media in general. RAGNA is a sad character when you look at him. Like when you look at him from like the outside looking in, for someone who hasn't played BlazBlue and looking at him for the first time, you see, oh yeah, he looks like a main character, he looks kind of edgy, etc, etc. But RAGNA has a lot under the hood that's just really depressing. Like, RAGNA is a very tragic character. The guy loses his entire family to a ghost god man, a green ghost god man, and RAGNA just gets constantly shat on by nearly everything and everyone around him. Nearly everything takes a shot at RAGNA. Nearly everyone wants to take a shot at him. It's even worse to the point that his own death, like literally if RAGNA would die, it would force the world to rewind, thanks to the origin within the master unit Amaterasu. Literally, God herself says, nah bro, you can't die bro. You can't even give RAGNA the sweet release of death, and that's just depressing. He can't even die, and that's sad. But anyway, the entire C series of RAGNA the entire C series is just RAGNA's story, right? And it's just about his struggle as a person. It's about the world around him, and it's about how he comes to change himself over the course of the series, to the point that he is running the show in BlazBlue Central Fiction as his final outing as the main character. And while I have many gripes about Central Fictions and Central Fiction story, I believe giving RAGNA the main spotlight for once, which is funny, it's hard to say that your main character is not getting the spotlight, but I feel like having RAGNA handle all his business in the final game and taking charge and doing things like this, I think the RAGNA bits of BlazBlue Central Fiction are the things that I cannot complain about, because I think everything was really well done. He made amends with certain characters, he started to handle things on his own, but then he realized he couldn't do so, and then he pretty much just went out like a boss, and I definitely like what they did. I definitely like what Mori did with RAGNA in Central Fiction, because things did feel final for RAGNA in that case. He managed to make amends with his brother and sister, kinda, in a way. He just stole the show, and I generally like what they did with RAGNA in Central Fiction. RAGNA is a pretty funny character, you know. In Gag Reels you really do see more layers to RAGNA. I mean, you do that see with every other character, but I think RAGNA really is just the most hilarious thing in Gag Reels. Like, there's no Gag Reel that he's just like not the funniest goddamn thing in the room. And outside Gag Reels, he does bounce off every character he comes across pretty well. That's one thing I like about RAGNA. He generally does bounce off characters really well. Like, everyone he meets, he generally does have something good to say, or something like, you know, just a good interaction. That's what I mean. And plus, he just has a really cool design too. I like RAGNA's design. He has that modern / traditional Japanese blend. You know, he wears the Hakama pants. Sometimes you can't even tell it's Hakama pants. At sometimes it looks like the pants have just been blown out. But like, the fact that I can't even tell is really cool. And he just has a really cool design. I generally do love RAGNA's just look overall. I just love this guy. ARCSYS does him really well. I think Out of every single voice actor in, I think, the history of dubbing, Patrick Seitz and RAGNA were a match made in heaven. I think Patrick Seitz has that perfect angle to voice someone like RAGNA. Like he's just the perfect voice actor to fit this one character. And I definitely believe that RAGNA is one of my favorite characters just ever in general. Honestly, I couldn't avoid making this list without talking about Makoto NANAYA. Gush about Makoto. Like, Makoto is a really just a fun character. You know, she's just this bubbly, kind, cheerful squirrel girl, and she's just an overall good buddy to have around. You know, like, Makoto feels like a best friend you could have in real life. If I can feel that a video game character will be a great person to know IRL, you've done something right. And I generally do believe that Makoto would be a great friend IRL, not just in game, but just anywhere, you know? I mean, hell, she literally gained the power of order, literally the sheer willpower, through her strong soul and the love for her friends. She literally took the power of friendship, manifested it into power, and not only that, but it's not cheesy. To me personally, it's not cheesy, because like Makoto did grow up facing a lot of discrimination. People didn't even like her due to her race, but then she met people like Noelle and Tsubaki, who treat her like she just wanted to be treated like a normal person. I generally like that, you know. I do find the whole military academy stuff and Remix Heart and stuff like that kind of cheesy at points, but I do like seeing Makoto's general happiness. You know, it's sad to see a person, you know, face hardship when they're younger. And, well, I mean, hardship in general. But then, you know, they finally get a chance to meet people who generally care about them, who generally love them, who would do anything for their sake. And Makoto, seeing how someone like Tsubaki was going off the rails, you know, that must have hurt her a lot. You know, she did, like, I forgot who said it. I think it was RELIUS or Kokono, I can't remember exactly. The story mode or arcade mode, again, this is like, but I heard that, you know, Makoto's soul would break if anything ever happened to her friends. And that really just goes to show that she just loves the people around her. She just loves her friends, and she genuinely does care. And I can't fault her for that, you know? Makoto grew up just not having the best of things happen to her. But then she managed to get people who cared about her, and that literally turned itself into power. And just Makoto is just a fun character overall. Cindy Robinson does a very good job of portraying her. As I said before, with Patrick Seitz as RAGNA, I generally do believe Cindy Robinson is just the perfect Makoto. Hearing Makoto as anyone else just wouldn't feel right, to be honest. It just wouldn't feel right. And yeah, I don't know what else much to say about Makoto. She's just a cool character. She makes a lot of funny references. Every time she's on screen, it's a joy to watch her. You know, everyone's all like, it's Squirrel Girl fan service, but I personally do believe Makoto's much more out of that. Some people just boiled Makoto down to fan service, and that's not it. She's much more than that. I just don't like how some characters are seen as just like surface level or whatever, but there's much more to Makoto outside of the fan service. There's a deeper character in there, and I generally do believe people need to see that more before I lose my mind. I have no idea how controversial this kind of choice is, because a lot of people I meet hate Nine. They just hate her ass. And I just kind of feel bad for Nine when people say they hate her. Yeah, I understand that some people don't jive with her abrasive nature. I can totally understand that. I can totally understand people just not liking Nine because they see her as a mean character or her gameplay or shit like that. You know what? I can totally understand that. But me personally, I definitely see more in Nine. You know, I don't believe she deserves all the hate she gets, but I do see why she does get it. I mean, I guess she wasn't as... I understand she's not a pleasant character. I get it. At times she's not pleasant. But I understand how garbage her life was. Like, she had a rough childhood. She had no mother. She had a mother who died early. She had mostly neglectful fodder who only wanted to use them as experiments of sorts. She only had Celica as her only family left, and Nine kind of had to worry about Celica constantly. Celica would run off and get lost, or some bad thing would happen, and Nine's off trying to, study, and she had to grow up really fast in order to take care of her sister. She really didn't get to have a childhood she could really enjoy. She had to drain and exhaust herself like hell for a year straight to create weaponry in order to fight back the Black Beast. And after all of that, she finally gets her happy ending, only for it to get ripped away from her. She then gets killed by Terrorby and then tossed into the boundary. And then she learns that the Master Unit essentially continued to loot things again and again, along with seeing more truths of the world that she hated to see, like constantly seeing Celica die over and over and over again in the church fire. She had to go against everyone she loved, like her husband, her own sister, her daughter. Like, she had to go through her own family, her friends like Trinity, and then she has to get put down by Ragna, and then she later sacrifices herself to halt Izanami for a time to give Ragna and others a chance. Nine went through hell. I understand that some people may not like her personality, but Nine really went through hell, and I definitely feel her on that front. It's not like Nine was a complete ass to everyone ever, Nine was a good person at heart. She's just, a little rough around the edges, but she did have general friends that gave a shit about her, and I definitely give a shit about her. And Nine generally sacrificed herself, just the same way BlazBlue kind of did back in Phase Shift. She did the same thing to help, and I don't think anyone who was a complete asshole would give their lives to help others, Keep in mind, Nine, worked herself to the bone, and then when she finally, got to have some free time, to have a life to live, to try to live something of a normal life, it gets taken away from her. And she gets reborn as a goddamn ghost, controlled by, literally, she has to stand next to someone like Terrorby, the very person who killed her, right? She has to stand next to Terrorby as essentially a puppet, like Phantom. He has to call her in. It's like, oh, Phantom, get me out of here. Phantom, get these people out of here. She's still being controlled, especially there's Izanami as well, and then RELIUS too, shit like that. It's just, Nine had nothing good, and that's why I like to compare her to Ragna in certain cases. Those two feel like two sides of the same coin. While Ragna, managed to, go out and get better himself, Nine, when she came back, she just hated everything and hated everyone, and got was pissy, and I can understand why she was. And Ragna beating her, even though people didn't like how how that was executed, I personally believe that the only person who could have taken down Nine was Ragna, because he's the only person I feel like ever in BlazBlue who can understand her on a deeper level. And that's why I like Nine. It's just parallels and sad lives and bullshit. It's just all that culminates to make a character like Nine, and I definitely sympathize with her. If one character I can really feel for in BlazBlue is Nine, and you know what? I feel like passing away, moving on, stuff like that. I feel like that was a good way to, end Nine off. And she fought like hell just to die again. That's sad. That's really sad. Lambda does have a lot of fans, but you know what? At first, when BlazBlue Continuum Shift came out, I was not a fan of Lambda, really. I saw her as, like some other people did, just a carbon copy of New without all the craziness attached to it. But then I started to think about it a little bit more. Lambda, as with other characters I mentioned so far, she's a very tragic character. Now, I will sit here and say that a character having a very sad backstory doesn't automatically make them make him a good character, because there's some characters with terrible backstories who are just completely unlikable, but Lambda's a likable character. When I want to look back at her past, I think, damn, dude, Lambda got experimented on, she got tortured, she couldn't even scream because she couldn't speak, and then she literally goes thrown out in actual trash until Kokinoe gets a hold of her and then seals her soul away in order to jam news into its place. And then thankfully, Lambda doesn't remember the torture. Thank God for that. But it does show how easily someone like New could have been if things been different. It could have easily shown how Lambda could have became another Nu, or how, you know, Nu could have became a Lambda if things had been different. And I definitely like to see that parallel from back and forth. Hell, even Lambda is dressed in brighter, shinier colors than Nu. It's like she's literally the light version of Nu, and I like that. Nu is a crazy girl, but you can understand why she's as crazy as she is. But then again, she kind of grates on my nerves, in my opinion. But Lambda is just a wholesome, sweet girl who's on her own little journey of self-discovery in her own little way. I like to see it as that. You know, BlazBlue Alter Memory, while not canon, has the Lambda parts be the best thing about the anime. RAGNA, like seeing her and RAGNA interact is like one of the most wholesome shit I've ever seen in any kind of BlazBlue medium ever, right? Episode 8 of Alter Memory is freaking awesome. And seeing how those two connect, even for a short time, it shows, you know, more of Lambda's character, more how she's just a lost girl in all of this, you know. And seeing RAGNA show more of her sweet side to her is a good thing that I wish was elaborated more on in BlazBlue Continuation. That would have been great to see. Then there was the point that Lambda gets killed by Terry. And, you know, we still see that whole thing about how, you know, oh, I'm Nu. Nu was watching over you this entire time, RAGNA. And that scene always rubbed me in the wrong way, because I understand that Nu's soul was in there, but it kind of robbed Lambda of what she could have had as her own character. So the one thing Alter Memory did right, in my opinion, was even though they still had the scene of Nu coming through Lambda, RAGNA really doesn't fight for Nu in this case. He fights for Lambda. He doesn't even bring up Nu anymore. He knew Nu was in there. It's like, okay, but I knew Lambda, so like he fights for Lambda when he goes. He fights for Lambda when she dies, right? And I like how more emphasis was put on Lambda as a character, how she played a part in the narrative. Hell, later when RAGNA fights back Mood later in Alter Memory, she shows up as a spirit within the idea engine that RAGNA absorbs from her, when she sacrifices herself against. Wait, well, she's not sacrificing herself. Sacrifices herself to save RAGNA from getting hit by Terry. And I like that. You know, it shows like, you know, Lambda's always with him. You know, even though Nu said like, oh, Nu will always be with you, RAGNA. But no, it shows that Lambda is with him in spirit. Even though her soul is sealed away and has Nu's jammed in there, it still showed that Lambda was going to be with RAGNA regardless. And while that's not in the main games, I like to at least consider the Lambda parts of Alter Memory canon, because it does kind of play in the part that Chrono Phantasma. You know, they do carry her personality over and carry her little story over from the game into Chrono Phantasma Extended when she shows up. So, in my humble opinion, I kind of consider the Lambda parts of Alter Memory canon, even if it's not. To me, you know, it just feels like, yeah, of course they brought her back because she was popular in Alter Memory, so of course. But yeah, Lambda, just a damn good character. I even like to see the parts in the arcade mode, Central Fiction, where she's like fighting back people on the cast. I'm fighting for RAGNA. He fought for me. I'm fighting for him. You know, like in Alter Memory, I like that shit. You know, I live and breathe for wholesome shit, and Lambda is just a damn good, you know, damn good character. You got freaking characters like Noelle, who's just a nervous wreck, and Nu, who's just essentially really, really crazy. But, you know, Lambda's that good middle spot. It's the wholesome, sweet girl who deserves all the head pats and all the tar she can take care of. Yeah, I'm actually saying that RELIUS CLOVER is my final favorite character of all of BlazBlue. Like, originally, I hated the shit out of this guy. The same thing went for characters like Izanami and Terumi. I hated all these villains when they were first revealed. I did not like Hosma/Terumi at all until like more games in the series came out. I hated Izanami and Chrono Phantasma until she got like really interesting in Central Fiction. And the same went for RELIUS and Continuing Shift. I hated this guy, but over time I grew to love him, just how bonkers and how in control he is most of the time. He is nearly unstoppable, and I love that about RELIUS. I mean, RELIUS was the one of the 10 sages. He was a colonel in the NOL. He was the creator of Prime Field devices. He managed to collaborate with Terumi and have him trade him the Susanoo unit. he accidentally created the Black Beast along with Terumi, and thus being the ones who started the Dark War in the first place. He survived being devoured by the Black Beast. He pretty much beats the shit out of everyone he meets with Ignis, and he pretty much uses Ignis for most of his dirty work, though he's clearly strong enough to fight on his own. He was evil enough to turn his own wife and daughter into robots. He mentally scarred his own son to the point that his son is slowly becoming much like his father. He's a major player in most people's backstories, including RAGNA, Jins, and SLIDESHOW. He keeps showing up in other BlazBlue media just to peace in and peace out after he got what he's wanted, just to see that RELIUS cameo, and he is the only villain left alive at the end of BlazBlue Central Fiction. And you know why? Because characters like Izanami want to come in and do their own thing. Terry wanted to hop in the Susanoo unit and do his own thing. RELIUS, he just straight up says, yeah, I'm gonna peace out and go research in the boundary. I'm not getting involved with this. You see how everybody else is dying out there? I'm not gonna die. I'm going to the boundary and hide out in there and do my research. Like, just, RELIUS he's insane. And I love this guy. He's freaking insane. Like, keep in mind, RELIUS is still a human. Yeah, we got other powerful characters in this series, but most of the characters are either beastkin, artificial humans, cyborgs, or freaks of nature like Azrael. Like, RELIUS is a normal human dude who's just strong. He has a ton of knowledge. He has mechanical enhancements on his side. He is adept in magic and sorcery. But he just has no regard for, he really has no regard for human life. He only sees people as the souls within him. He just sees people as, yeah, you're just a soul. You know, I want to examine that soul. If you're a weak soul, I have nothing to, who cares about you? Like, look at Makoto, he doesn't see her race. He doesn't see her as a beast, he just sees, oh yeah, I'm interested in you because of your soul. I don't give a shit about you, whatever species of people you are is irrelevant to me. You're a soul, awesome. Really, the only times that RELIUS has actually been beaten by someone was, I remember he got whooped by Valkenheim and Chrome Phantasma. I remember that he got beaten by Clavis in BLOODEDGE experience when he was still a teenager, which, I mean, to be fair, Clavis could beat the shit out of anyone back in the day. He could still probably do it now if he was able to do something, so... And plus, he has a really cool Astro that works on all characters differently. Amane, and Nishiki would later go on to do the same thing, but RELIUS came first, and RELIUS did the whole, changing up Astro He's per character thing. Like, RELIUS, he's just a general madman. And I love that RELIUS just literally comes in, he just talks about shit for a bit, sometimes engage and leaves. He's smart enough not to get involved with the plot as much. He's really involved with the plot, right? RELIUS is really involved with the plot, but he's always doing shit behind the scenes, and I like that. Some characters are like, oh, well, he's doing this shit off screen, but I think RELIUS just, he edges the line of just being so involved, but yet personally not involved, if that makes sense. Like, RELIUS, it's like, yeah, he's doing shit, but he doesn't want to be up in the spotlight as much. It's only if it's necessary for him to do so. And then when it's not necessary for him to do so, he pieces out. He doesn't want to get involved with this shit because he knows probably something bad's gonna happen to him if he gets involved too deeply. And that's what I like about RELIUS. He's a general madman. I love this goddamn guy. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Please tell me your favorite characters and, what your favorite characters are in BlazBlue and how you like them and, what do you like about them, if it's their gameplay, their lore, or anything like that. Please tell me in the comment section below. So I will see you all next time. Peace, everyone. I hope you have a great day. I am out.